Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Music on the Underground podcast, where I talk to musicians from all across Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Make sure to check out all the artists I have on the podcast, listen to their music, follow them on all their social media platforms, show them some love. And yeah, let's get into this episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Music on the Underground podcast, where I talk to artists from all over Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And for this episode of the podcast, I have Parliament of Owls with me. How you doing, Wade?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's been a tough day so far for you.
Yeah, it has. As I was telling you, I went to go meet a friend downtown or in the Glebe for coffee, and I must have misinterpreted what the signage was, and I received 2 parking tickets. So it's been an expensive day, which I thought it was kind of odd to have to pay for parking at a school here too, but I want to make sure that I'm out before I get a 3rd ticket today.
Yeah, the parking is a bit, I like even students kind of, have issues about that, especially. But one thing I like to do when I start these podcast episodes is do a little bit of like a icebreaker type thing. So Sure. It's kind of just your name, the instrument you play, at least when you're on stage. Actually, I did want to ask before we do that. Is this more of like do you have other people helping you with, in terms of like making your music or playing it on stage, or is it more of just like a solo thing you do?
So, pretty much everything that, I record, I do myself. I have played a lot of like solo shows, just myself and a guitar. But given like the EP that I'm putting out, I'm looking to kind of expand that. So right now it's myself and a drummer on stage, and we're going to be looked to outfit a bass player, and we'll take it from there. You mentioned that you have a bass, right?
Yep.
So there you go. Right?
Not very good at it though right now.
Hey, I'm not good at what I do either. But yes, I play anything with strings, and also I'm the lead vocalist as well.
And if you guys do want, anyone listening and or watching, do want to check it out, be sure to follow Parliament of Owls on all the socials to make sure to stay up to date for the new music that's going to be coming out, and especially any shows that he has planned coming up soon. I know you just had a show the 26th. I can't remember where it was at. I know because Brandon was supposed to be heading over there to have an live on location radio thing with you.
Yeah, that was at Live on Elgin, and yeah, unfortunately you guys couldn't make it out, but it was a cool show. That's such a great venue. Anybody that's kind of up and coming musicians, that's a great little place to play. They have live music, I think, most nights. So a lot of people, you struggle what to do on a Sunday. And I know that they have live music on Sunday, and it was good. It was a lot of fun. That was the second show that I played with my drummer, Darren Martin. And then I got a couple coming up this weekend as well. But Live on Elgin is where that show was. It was with a band called Ottawa, as well as Swamp City Stompers. And they both, anybody that's listening that wants to check out kind of stoner rock music that's really good, Ottawa, and it's spelled AUTAWAH. And anybody that's into kind of southern rock music, go check out Swamp City Stompers. Really good.
And just wondering, do you have any shows that are planned for after the album release?
Yeah, I'll be playing Overflow Brewery in town on November 5th. It's their 7th annual birthday, and they're kind enough to ask me to come back again. I played there last year for their 6th birthday. Anybody that wants to check out kind of one of the premier live music venues, go to Overflow. Awesome staff, awesome people. That'll be a good night. And then for band shows, that'll bring me into the new year type of thing. But I have a lot of like solo shows. I play a lot of solo shows at like brew pubs and stuff like that. But that'll be the next Parliament of Owls band.
All right. Well, actually, I just turned like 19, like a week or two ago. Wow. So I could actually go to a brewery now and actually
That's amazing.
do something there.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you, Wade.
It all goes downhill.
It all goes downhill from here.
Yeah.
And just going back onto the, because we were supposed to do the introduction type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I did want to ask with the icebreaker was because you did tell me about that promotion you have going with Nomada Tacos in Pembroke.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to ask like how that kind of came to be, like how you got a promotion for the November 1st show in Pembroke going with them.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I'm originally from Pembroke. I lived there most of my, I guess, adolescent life. So I do have ties to there, and I have a good dear friend that owns Nomada Tacos. His name's Jordan Beard. I reached out to him about possibly doing some, I guess, kind of less than regular, less than normal promotions for my EP that's coming out. So I have an EP coming out November 1st called The Measurement of Weight. It's a 6-song EP. For all of the month of October, Nomadas was nice enough to create my own signature burrito, which is called the Waiterito, which I was just talking to Jordan, the owner, today, and it's been a huge success. Now, $5 from every burrito sale of the Waiterito goes towards a local charity that looks after underprivileged youth to give them a couple of programs and help them out. And the goal was to raise about $1,000, and I think we're going to be able to hit that goal, if not a little bit more. That promotion ends November 1st. Now, for that end of that promotion, I'll be playing a EP release show at Nomadas, which isn't a music venue, so they kind of convert the little restaurant into a place that I could play. We chose to do it November 1st because it's for like the Day of the Dead. And if you've seen any like imagery for my EP, it's definitely that theme. I'm wearing kind of Day of the Dead makeup, so to speak. So it all fits pretty well. But yeah, if you guys haven't been to Nomadas yet in Pembroke, Ontario, treat yourself. Now, not just the Waiterito burrito, but all their food is just amazing. Awesome staff, awesome little atmosphere. I highly recommend it. So I've been very fortunate that they've kind of agreed to, take on a silly promotion. We also do, I have a production partner, and we own a small production company called Next Street Over Productions, where we profile like local small businesses. Then the back half of that show, I perform a couple songs in that business. So we've done like donut shops and like RC car places, a bike shop. And one of the places that we did do was Nomada Tacos. So cool to have them welcome me back. And yeah, for that, Next Door Productions, the show that we have on YouTube is called Indie Business. So check that out. And in the new year, we'll be starting that up again. Hopefully do one episode a month to local businesses within Pembroke, Ottawa, and Cornwall, where my home base is.
That is awesome. Inside of a taco shop's a new one. Honestly, I was thinking about that actually recently, how like we don't really see any like one of the more like normal, I guess, shows that doesn't happen inside of like a normal venue is like inside of like a record store or something like that. But we don't really see that in Ottawa a lot.
Yeah, I'm hoping like what I'm doing could kind of get some traction, because I like doing stuff like that. It's great to play at the traditional venues, but I like to kind of create a cool little atmosphere that you wouldn't see any live music at before. So like I said, we've done a donut shop, a bike shop, and like an RC car and hobby store. We've done Nomada Tacos, and also we've done Law and Orders, which is a burger shop that's all throughout Ottawa and the Valley, and then into Belleville, Peterborough. I think they just opened up, but we just found out that they became the official smash burger of the Ottawa Senators, which is huge. They have
seriously?
they have a restaurant, like a little canteen place inside of like Scotiabank Center that sells Law and Order burgers and fries, which is so cool. But yeah, we're hoping to do other things like that. We had a couple scheduled for this year that we had to postpone, but anybody that does want to be featured on that, go check it out. You can see it on my YouTube page, which is Parliament of Owls Music, as well as I have a YouTube page specifically for that show called Next Door Productions. Check out the episodes if you want to be featured. If you have a small business, right now it's completely free. So we go, and I guess the premise of it is we feature the small business. I sit down, I chat with the owner, and then I perform inside of there. So hit me up if you want to kind of get involved with that. But I'm hoping it's something that could kind of take shape, that we could play a little bit more less than traditional shows in places like that.
I really hope that does actually catch on, because that is really cool. I think it's also because the whole point of especially indie artists, like making sure they play at all the different venues in Ottawa. And I think like expanding to outside of venues is good, because the whole point of it is to kind of gain some more reach.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like going to an audience, well, you'll probably still get the same audience because it's like they're going to the show, right? But maybe you'll get some people who just really like going to that place or something, but you know, they see, oh, like someone's performing there. I mean, do they ever actually like sell food while the show's happening as well?
Whenever I did the one at Nomada Tacos, and sometimes it will just be, I'll finish what I'm saying, I guess, the one at Nomada Tacos, you know, they had drinks and stuff like that. They didn't have any food being sold just because we're trying to pick up some audio. So we didn't want kind of things coming and going. But also like in Law and Orders, the one that I did there, I just did it in their kitchen. So we couldn't really have a whole big crowd. And that's the fun thing about the show is some of it isn't like a live venue. You know what I mean? So we have to get really creative on like where I perform and how we want to do it. If there is a big enough place to have people come in, then I obviously want that. But, you know, we'll go in and like I said, I played in their kitchen, and I look forward to kind of being tasked to find interesting places to play that, I know that I have a good friend that, has like a dog daycare. So I want to perform there, and my crowd will just be dogs, you know? But it's an interesting thing, and I just kind of want to paint a bit of a picture, like of something less than traditional. So it's not necessarily let's go to the bar, we go and get drunk. It'll be let's go see a show at a dog daycare, or you know, a place that only serves tacos. You know what I mean? So hopefully it takes off. We need a little bit of luck because you know it does cost us quite a bit, but it's what we're passionate about, and we want to also provide these awesome, hardworking businesses and hardworking business owners with a little bit less than traditional advertisement as well. Not just the crap you see on social media of that gets ran down your throat. We want to have kind of a little bit of a longer format of like, you know, whether it's 15 minutes or half hour to kind of showcase their business. Because there's a lot of hardworking people out there that, you know, small businesses, you need a little bit of help from everybody. So if we could do our little bit of part to kind of bring a little bit more awareness to these hardworking places, it's the least we could do.
Awesome. What is the weirdest place you've played at? Or at least the most unique?
I remember playing guitar, because when I was actually a little bit younger than what you are now, and I went to New Zealand, like after high school. And I remember like kind of playing in like a hostel, and it was just, you know, like everybody that was in their tent came out, and I just kind of performed there. That was kind of spur of the moment. But yeah, I played in some unique places, and, you know, all of them are a little bit different in a different way. But the one playing in the kitchen at Law and Orders was definitely unique because it's just, you know, your guitar, and, you know, fryers and flat tops for burgers, you know, so you kind of have to watch where you're putting your hands and what you're doing. Also, the acoustics is a little different because nobody's playing there, but hopefully I could have opportunity to play at, you know, even weirder places. So if somebody's listening to this and they have a small business and they want to get involved, don't just think, you know, like because your place, you look around and say like, oh, I don't think we could have anybody perform here. The weirder, the better, man. You know, like I'm up for any challenge, and I would really like to be challenged with some places that I will have a tough time thinking like, how am I going to do this? You know? So we'll see though. We start up, again in the new year. I know that one of them that we're going to be doing is, I know a gentleman that owns, he does like boat tours on the Ottawa River. So he has a very nice, beautiful jet boat, and he takes people on tours. So I'll perform hopefully on that boat.
Is it big enough for that?
I don't know.
It could be like one of those like speedboats.
Well, that's what it is. It is. So like I said, we'll get creative and we'll make it work. That's part of the challenge, is to do something like that people are going to say like, how is this going to work out? You know, but we'll see.
And one thing I did want to talk about that I know, Wade, you've had a rough day so far today, so maybe I don't want to give more bad memories, but I know recently this past week or a bit ago, you did a live show with Brandon Brown, or DJ Immortal, who is with Punk World 99 FM. So if you want to listen to a all punk like online radio station, you can go listen to him. But if you want to listen to more Ottawa music, make sure to stay tuned to the podcast so you can find out some more good Ottawa artists. But I did want to talk about one event he told me about that I think he talked about you with on the show, which was a Renfrew wrestling incident, which that's definitely one event where you performed at that you won't think too fondly of.
No, please, let's set the record straight. I had a great time doing that, and I would work with that promotion in a second. Everybody that's involved is great. It just didn't end the way that I had kind of hoped for it. So to kind of set the stage, it was a wrestling event in Renfrew, and it was fantastic. I played at the beginning before the event started. Now there was a bit of miscommunication on what PA system they'd be using, so they had to kind of pivot and think quick and use my little PA system that I brought only for, that I used to play. Now, there was a bit of miscommunication with, like one of the big, wrestlers that they had got to come in. And at the end of the show, he had gotten himself completely bloodied up, like just pouring out blood. And he wanted the mic to cut a promo. So they quickly said, here, have the mic, which was attached to all of my equipment and my PA system. Now that mic isn't supposed to be, 60 feet long. You know what I mean? So they got it to him and he kind of yanked everything out, not realizing that, it's not the right mic to use. And he cut a promo. And then whenever he gave the mic back, I saw that his blood was dripping all over my microphone. And I kind of watched it come back, and I kind of saw everybody else's faces like turn at me like, oh, is he going to lose it? And I wasn't impressed, but they covered the cost and they purchased me a new microphone. So it all worked out fine. In the moment, it was a little less than ideal because I don't want another gentleman's blood all over my microphone. So, but yeah, they were kind enough. They purchased me a brand new microphone, and I think they auctioned that one off to have this wrestling character. His name was Rene Dupuis. Dupuis, I think. That sounds about right, but I could be getting him mistaken. But he was in like the WWE and had a good and stuff like that. So he was a popular guy, and I think they auctioned off that bloody microphone. Who wants that? I don't know. But I guess there's a market for everything nowadays. But yeah, just to clear the record on that, I had a great time with that, and they were fantastic people. And yeah, Brandon was the MC for that event. Yeah, I got to meet Brandon, and he's a friend of mine. And yeah, I hope that wrestling promotion, or any promotion, once again, that was something that was different, that I reached out to them and said, do you have anybody in the concourse playing music? And they didn't. And I kind of saw an opportunity. Wouldn't it be cool that you don't just have wrestling, but you also have live music type of thing? So they had scheduled to do another event, which they didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't pan out. But yeah, anything like that. I love playing kind of less than traditional shows. And that one was definitely less than traditional. And at the end, it just got a little bit bloody, but it was good.
Have you played any like shows at wrestling events since then? No,
I wish though. I kind of thought that was going to spark my whole wrestling career, that I could just be a guy that travels around with wrestling promotions playing music to them. But we would love to. Like, I kind of humored the fact of like doing some of their theme music and stuff like that. But I do know a dear friend that has a wrestling promotion out west, and we were in talks of me doing like his theme song. So hopefully we can kind of get that over the finish line, and maybe I could have a career of just doing wrestlers' theme songs. Would that be great?
That would be pretty cool, actually. Yeah. And just before we do get into his new EP, The Measurement of Weight, which is going to be out November 1st. So I guess just before the start of this week when the episode is released. Mm-hmm. But I did want to, also just one little thing to ask, because we did mention a bit about the Scotiabank Arena and the Toronto Blue Jays. And they did have a pretty long game last night. Mm-hmm. Were you watching the whole thing?
I did. I watched probably 85% of it. And then I kind of fell asleep watching it because we don't have the cable. So we have, our Netflix account and stuff like that. But I don't have anywhere to watch the game. So what I do is I watch it on my phone on TikTok Live. So I just kind of watch somebody else's living room. And usually it's pretty annoying. They talk too much and make it about them. But I kind of like had my phone and I drifted asleep. And then I woke up and I looked at the time and I thought the game was being repeated somehow. Like I was whenever you wake up and you don't know what planet you're on. That was kind of like last night. I'm like, wait, what's happening? What inning? Obviously it didn't go the Blue Jays way, but, hey, tonight's another game, right?
Yeah. What is the series at now? Is it like 2-1?
2 games to 1 for LA.
Do you think Toronto can win?
Of course they can. Yeah, of course they can. They've battled back. They've become kind of notorious this year with kind of battling back through games, series. Of course they could win. And I think it's important to, be positive, and you're never out until it's the last out, right? So I think they could win.
It was definitely different for me figuring out, because I also was talking to my dad about the playoffs, and he remembers where like the playoffs were different, and it was kind of like they only had kind of like a conference final, and then they had the World Series, so it was only like 2 rounds.
Right. Yeah. So before they didn't have like their like what they call the wild cards.
Yeah.
So they only had kind of the winners of each type of thing. But it's so cool, like just to talk about the Blue Jays. I've been a fan since, they won their first 2 World Series, and that would have lined up with, I would have been 12, 13-ish or something. So, I just got into baseball. I met all friends and we played baseball in leagues and competitive baseball. You get older to around what your age is now, and you don't pay attention to sporting events as much. You're kind of into girls or boys or music, partying, kind of living that early 20s kind of lifestyle. Me, I just stuck with watching the games when they were really, really bad. And I could name off probably like 100 like ex-players that are completely irrelevant from back in the day. So for me, it's really cool to see how like a new generation has now fallen in love with them, So it's really cool to see everybody in Canada kind of getting behind the Toronto Blue Jays, because I don't know if you follow politics that much, but I think that this country needs something that everybody could kind of get behind that's a common thing. And it may be silly like sports, but I think it goes a long way for everybody to kind of be able to connect together,
Yeah, especially because the Raptors aren't exactly good right now.
Yeah. But on the Raptors notes, I never thought in a million years, I never thought in my lifetime that they would have won the championship. So that year, forever, Kawhi Leonard will be my favorite basketball player. Whatever he does or doesn't do the rest of his career, he's always won it. He won a championship for Toronto, which I don't know if Toronto's ever going to win another championship, but I'm proud of them.
A bit of I guess for me, actually, no, before we move on. I think that's also like a very interesting thing, how like a lot of times when you're a kid, and even if it's a local team or something or at least near local, because you're from Pembroke, so Toronto isn't exactly Pembroke, but like the team that you follow usually has to have like something big happen for you to like fall in love with them, type of thing.
Yep.
Like for me, it was when like the Senators went to the conference final. That's when I first got into hockey. And so that's when I started to like them, even though like immediately after they sucked for the next like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, the Senators, because the Senators and the Oilers, because I lived for 15 years or maybe 13 years in Alberta and in Edmonton. So I have very fond memories of, I consider Edmonton kind of a home away from home, just because you leave so much of yourself there. But the Senators have, I think the problem is they'll be very bad and then very good. So they've had, over the past, 20 years or so, they've had so much success, but some people will say like, oh no, they haven't done much because they haven't won. But the fact that they were like, years ago, like 1 goal away from making the Stanley Cup. And then, what was it, 2007 or
2005 or no, 2006-07 season
that they made it to the final. Like that was crazy. I also lost a friend that I've never spoken to since that year. We had known each other like prior, and we met. He came up to visit in Edmonton where I lived, and we went to like a Chili's restaurant, and we're drinking, and that cup final was on, and I was so invested into it that I wasn't really listening to people. And then all of a sudden he says, "Yeah, I hope that Anaheim wins." And I'm just like, what are you talking about, Anaheim? He's like, well, I'd like to see J.S. Giguère, their goalie, win. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not a Leafs fan, but if the Leafs are in the Stanley Cup final, 100% I cheer for the Leafs because I'm a Canadian and I want a Stanley Cup parade in Canada before I die, So even though I'm not a Leafs fan, I would 100% cheer for them and I hope they win if they make it to the finals. So I was very confused on why he would choose Anaheim Mighty Ducks to win. And I remember standing up and paying my bill and I never talked to him since. It was mid-conversation too. He's like, yeah, I hope Anaheim wins. And I'm just like, okay, I'm out of here. And I never talked to him since. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, hey, I guess he's still cheering for Anaheim maybe. I don't know.
That's also a weird thing to say because I'm pretty sure at the time Anaheim had won a couple of Stanley Cups.
Yeah. Did they?
They won against the Devils, I think. I know
that was that.
Their first one was when like Giguère was like insane and he won the comps. Oh, or no, that was the one they lost.
Yes, they lost. I think to the Devils that year, and he won the Conn Smythe. Yeah, you're right about that. And then I think their first one was against the Senators, right? And then did they win one more? I can't remember if they won one more now.
I gotta check now.
Yeah, I kind of thought that they won two, but maybe I'm getting the one that they lost confused. I kind of thought they won two, but I don't know.
Oh, they did only win one.
Yeah?
I know they've been, so they've been to the Cup twice. I thought they were there a few more times. They've been in the conference finals a few times, definitely. But
okay, so yeah, they lost one and won one. I thought that they won a second one, but yeah, no, I guess not. It was just every other warm market team has won, I think.
Yeah, the Canes have won.
Yeah.
Anaheim won.
And then on the other coast,
other
Florida,
coast.
Tampa, Carolina's won. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, but no, every Canadian team always gets there.
Yeah.
They lose.
Calgary, Ottawa,
everyone
Montreal.
but Winnipeg. And well, Toronto in
has
1967, but it's a little ways back. But
I think Winnipeg almost got there. Did they make the conference finals? I think like 2018 they did.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah. But yeah, they're the next team to get there. Yeah, it was unfortunate that Edmonton didn't win, but because you never know. You'd like to think, oh, they did it last year, they'll do it again. But I don't know how many teams you see that you think, oh, they'll be there again, and they never do. So we'll see.
I mean, granted, Montreal probably shouldn't have gotten there.
Definitely shouldn't have got there. Definitely should not have gotten there. I know that Montreal fans will be upset by that, but that just goes to show that you get on a run and you could win. But yeah. But they're looking good. They're going to be a good team.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're actually going to be paying Lane Hudson more than Jake Sanderson now.
Wow.
He got paid $8.5 million per season.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well, I think teams like that are looking for a long-term investment. So I think they think that they have such high hopes that in a couple of years the contract will look good. So you see like a couple players from like maybe 5 or 6 years ago that got overpaid that now their contract's worth it, the ones that made like $6 million a couple years ago now with salary cap going up. It's a good contract. And I think they assume he's going to keep improving. So maybe right now he might not warrant that money, but I think they're hoping in a couple of years he will, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I know the Sens. Well, as the Sens, they did the same thing with Stützle, Sanderson, and all them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shabbat's contract doesn't look exactly the greatest, but I know he's had a lot of health issues, but yeah, we'll see, man.
All right, I think though we should probably get back on track with the Parliament.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
And with the new EP, The Measurement of Weight, which we're going to kind of go through and kind of just talk about it a little bit. And kind of go like two each. So I guess the first two on the album, though there is one of the songs on here is actually like named after the album, or I mean the EP, The Measure of the Weight. We'll actually just start with that one, even though that's actually one of the last ones. And we'll start with the single you released, Mother Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving Earth. That was, that we recorded a little whiles before. So around May or so, I didn't really know if I was going to even continue on with any of this. Anybody that takes music serious knows that a lot of times as an indie artist, it's very frustrating. You feel like you're getting nowhere. you see kind of bills come in. You're never getting a return on your investment. It's just a pain to even get people to listen to your music or show up. So I was kind of on the fence if I wanted to just, cause I'd done 2 songs earlier in May, one of them being Moving Earth. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just release those 2. So we kind of wrapped that up, and then I kind of reevaluated what I wanted to do and realized that I don't want to kind of close the door on this. I think I have a lot more to offer. So, Moving Earth, I filmed a video. That one was released as a single a few months ago, but it came back and it was put on this EP. And yeah, the title track, which is track number 6, the last song, The Measurement of Weight. That one's kind of, in my opinion, kind of melds a few different genres. So there's a couple little parts to it, that starts out from something that would be more atmospheric, with a lot of kind of open chords and open kind of sounds, to having a bit of a breakdown, to almost turning into kind of like doom rock towards the end type of thing. Which I love stuff like that. And yeah, it gets heavy at the end and kind of leaves it in a bit more of like an epic state type of thing. But, that song, the title track, Measurement of Weight, I'm proud of, just because I feel the song works, and I was able to kind of get a couple different genres and pile them together. So I'm very pleased with how that one turned out.
And I want to talk specifically, I guess, more about like kind of the making of this EP a little bit, like on like what's the kind of like meaning in this EP, like how you actually decided to come up with it, and I guess like the writing process behind it.
Well, the writing process itself is unique, and I'll circle back to that. But like, this album to me is, it's very, very loose. I'm not saying it's a concept album, but it's filled with a bunch of different concepts. A lot of that was, I worked for years and years, in, working for large companies and trying to do the right thing of grow, my role in companies and doing the right thing, for the companies, which turned out to not be the right thing for me. I'd work long hours. I'd put companies first, only to, every company that I've worked for the most part, end up somehow kind of biting me in the ass. And coming to the realization that life is really, really short, and, any of these companies that I would die for would just walk right over me if I died and move on to somebody else. So, there's a lot of themes of kind of betrayal and, I guess, self-preservation and kind of rising up and focusing on yourself. Also, like, the imagery to it is kind of like, to me, a bit of an alter ego of what I am. It's a very dark, kind of imagery, kind of like Day of the Dead sort of makeup. And a lot of that is kind of that feeling of dying, figuratively. So, have your soul kind of taken away. And I feel like, a lot of these companies that I worked for, that's how I felt. So for me, it's a lot of that symbolism. Even with Moving Earth, it's, loosely, if you listen to it, it's kind of about, a unionized grave digger's point of view. That he could care less. He's just burying these bodies. Doesn't really matter. It's a paycheck. I pay my union dues, but, it's something that's, so fragile, like life, that this narrator, for Moving Earth looks at and says, could care less about your life, man. I'm just paying bills. And I think a lot of us do that with things. You know what I mean? Like, you get paid to do stuff. I don't have any passion. I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about your thoughts. I don't care who I'm hurting. I'll just kind of step over anybody to make that dollar. Now, as far as writing goes, I have a very, unique, I think, way of writing, is that I don't consciously, or proactively write music. So I have a lot of friends that are musicians that say, oh, I got like 50 songs like ready to go that I can go record. Me, I don't write a song until I write a song. So I might have a couple riffs that I enjoy and stuff that I play, but like, I try not to let other music or other artists or other things influence me whenever I'm writing. I just, for lack of a better term, just kind of open up to whatever to be a vessel for music. So, any of the songs that I've written, even on that EP, it isn't a conscious thing of me saying like, I'm going to write a song that sounds like this. I just kind of sit down and say, I'm ready to be a vessel, and these songs come out. And it's like, if you have a dream and you wake up and you're like, I kind of remember that dream. And then like later in the day, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this is what happened in that dream. That's like how I write, is I have like this vague thing in my mind's eye, so to speak, of like how the song goes that I don't consciously create. It's just kind of there. And it's my task to kind of figure out what parts are supposed to go with that to make it so it's a tangible thing that I could be able to put down that makes sense to people like that. But I don't actively write any music. I just try to let myself become a vessel. And whenever I do that, I don't listen to other music. I don't watch movies, because I don't want there to be an off chance that I've influenced myself from anything. I just want it to be organic. And I think like a lot of my music, all of it is different, but all of it does sound like me. You know what I mean? Like, so even though some of the songs are quite different, they all work together because it's definitely my voice and the way that I interpret things. So, definitely a weird way of songwriting, but that's all I know. Also, like I've only been doing this for a short period of time. So when I was your age, I went to school, for classical guitar. So I learned how to play classical guitar, but I ended up getting into a fist fight and shattering my fist over a man's head and had to drop out inadvertently. So I had a cast. I didn't want to stick it out, and I left the program. And then throughout my, late 20s and 30s, I focused exclusively on being a good worker, moving up corporate ladders, until one day you wake up and you realize that like none of that really matters, it could all be taken away. And the most important thing is, to do something soul fulfilling. So I had never sang to anybody on the planet, like not just even like in passing. Nobody on the planet before like 2.5 years ago has ever heard me sing ever. So I didn't know how to sing and play guitar. I didn't know I could sing. And then it was my spouse now that said, no, you can sing and you should really do that. And she kind of helped motivate me to do this. So like I hadn't had, 15 years of learning how to do this. I just decided to do it. And, I still fail at things, but I want someday to influence at least one person to say like anything is possible if you put your mind to it, because I don't have years of singing. I don't have years of songwriting. So, the first song I ever tried to write was like the first song I ever released, so it's not like I was writing music for 15 years. Also, I'd never once played anybody else's song. So I didn't even know a cover song. So prior to 2 years ago, if you gave me a guitar, I could noodle around, but like I wouldn't be able to sing and play. I wouldn't be able to play a song. I knew nothing. So like I said, I want to help kind of inspire people that are a little afraid to kind of take that first step, just to say, do it. You're going to fail, but you have to do it, And now I'm at the point that I'm a competent singer, a competent songwriter, competent guitarist. I can do all those things, and I've learned so much. And it's only been, 2 years that I've done that,
That's really cool, actually. So in the earlier part of your music making career, so did you just like not play shows then until you had enough songs?
How far back are you talking? Like 2 years ago? Because prior to that, nothing existed. Yeah.
So I guess like, in that earlier time frame is what I'm trying to say. Like when you were kind of first coming out with songs or like creating music, did you have to like wait until you had enough songs to actually start playing shows?
Well, yes. And I actually had to learn how to play my songs. So I rented some studio time. I only had a couple like rough ideas for a song. And I just wanted to go into a studio and see if like the terms made sense to me. So see if it felt foreign or if I felt comfortable, because I hadn't been in a studio. So I rented a studio, and I learned pretty quick the difference between a producer and an engineer. So the gentleman that I recorded with, he said, so what do you want to do? And I said, well, maybe this. And he said, okay, cool. Now what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. That's all I have. He said, okay, cool. Thanks for coming. I'll send you whatever you just sent me. So I had to learn pretty quick, like how to write music and how to do all that. But what I would do is I'd write and record guitars, and then I'd come in and do vocals. So then it was time for me to play those songs. I'm like, I don't know how to sing and play. So I had to learn my songs on how to sing and play my actual songs. Now, my first show I had lied to them and said that. So I kind of created, and that's the beauty about social media. I created a little bit of a presence on social media. So when people said like, let's check this guy out, they say, well, I guess he's legit. He has his own social media things with all these pictures in his bedroom. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he plays. And it was for a porch fest in, Osgood. And I had, kind of lied to say, yeah, I've done this before. And I got there and I learned some of my music and I learned other people's songs and butchered it, but I knew that I had to at least get going, so I knew I'm going to fail, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh yeah, that's good. When's your next show? I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, this is the first time I've ever done this. And they're like, what, like a porch fest? I said, no, ever performed or sang in front of anybody. That was the first time I'd ever sang to anybody in the history of my life, type of thing. And I got through it, but I also knew like, I want to get to where I am and I don't have 15 years to do it. I have 15 weeks. So I worked to the point that I could kind of play a couple shows. And then I just started booking wherever I could. So I guess maybe where my mindset comes of playing at unique places is just to be able, that mindset of having that hustle to find places to play. So I'm constantly reaching out to places to say like, do you have live music? And them say like, well, we've never done it in the past. And me trying to sell myself, say like, oh, can I come and do that? Cause I play quite a bit. My first year of doing this, I think I played 85 shows and it was anywhere possible. Anywhere that could have me, I would play. A lot of times to very few people. A lot of times I butchered it, but it's just, I needed to get those reps that somebody might have for 15 years. I needed to get that real quick. So my first year of doing this was designed to fail. So I didn't have any desire to have any success. It was just fail to figure out how to deal with things, and it was a risky thing to do, but now I'm at the point that I'm just starting to kind of see a bit of success. I'm starting to see people catch on and I could go and I could hold my own with anybody. I could write, good songs at work. I could play those songs and perform them. Even like some covers that I do, because I'll play a lot of like over dinner service. So it'll be like at a restaurant, I'll be live entertainment, but I'll play just, 90% covers, and even that was like, got me up to speed on playing other people's songs and not butchering them as well. So, yeah.
So what was the first time you actually did? Well, now that I'm thinking about it, because you're talking about the whole like just playing, wanting to play anywhere. Mm-hmm. And we were talking earlier about how you have this show where you just like play at just like random, even just like restaurants or stuff like that. Like even like again, Nomadas Tacos.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I wanted to ask, what was the first place that you played that kind of falls in that category?
It's tough to. I know that the wrestling one with Brandon Brown was pretty early on. That might have been 2 years ago, and that one was definitely odd. But there was here. I'll give you a good example. So. My first year doing this, where I live in Cornwall, there's a historic jail, and that jail I think has been around for 190 years. And I was just kind of looking over like pictures inside of it, thinking like, I wonder if anybody's ever played inside there. And I contacted this, they're called Phantoms of Lore, and they do like paranormal research and those things. And they're super awesome people and very talented at what they do. And I contacted them, because they were putting on like ghost hunter expeditions, whenever you go with people and you try to find ghosts. And I said, like, has anybody ever played in this prison? And everybody was confused on like what I meant. So what I did, and this was the first year that I did this, I went and I went on Halloween Eve. So it's funny, it's coming up to the anniversary. It's Halloween Eve and it was 3 a.m. And I went, and this historic jail, this notoriously haunted, I went and performed just by myself inside of there with nobody else. So there wasn't a single person in the whole place. It was just myself with all the lights shut off and just like I think they're IR cameras, that like you could see them if you look, but like you can't, there's no light that emits out of them. And I performed a couple songs inside of this historic jail to absolutely nobody. There's other places like I know the Defen bunker, like I reached out to see if I could play there and I didn't really get traction, but like those things interest me, of creating kind of a visual thing for it. So at that jail, I recorded one of my own songs that's on like my YouTube and everything, called Shallow Holes. And, it was just me inside of a jail that's notoriously haunted, at 3 a.m. on Halloween Eve. And it was just such a cool experience, to do something like that. And especially whenever I found out that nobody had ever done that. So in 190 years or whatever, nobody had ever done that. So I've done something that ultimately will stand the test of time,
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is on, like, I did a couple cover songs in like the one part of the jail, and then I recorded that song for my own song, Shallow Holes, which is all on my YouTube too. But it was definitely an interesting experience for sure. So
is that like the music video for the song?
It's not the music video. It's like a secondary sort of video. Okay. And it was definitely, there were some interesting things about that. Like, I love paranormal stuff, and I really wish there was ghost stuff, but like, I don't know, even though I've had a couple experiences that I can't describe. So was it a ghost? I don't know, but there was definitely some very interesting things that happened that night to me in that jail. So it was pretty cool.
That actually is good that you brought up this whole story, because that was actually another thing I was going to ask for. I guess that's something you talked about with Brandon on the live show.
I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget what I talk about, but I did, I think, talk about that to Brandon. But it was definitely a cool experience. I saw stuff, and I don't know, it was 3 a.m, man. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, your eyes play tricks on you, but definitely stuff that I'm just like, what the hell was that? But who knows?
And going on to the next two songs, I want to kind of touch on from the Measurement of Weight, the new EP. And those are the first two that are listed on the EP, which is Preaching Ain't Easy and On Top of the World.
Mm-hmm. Now, those two, I've been playing Preaching Ain't Easy on my live shows. That one is just like, I think the title fits with it, and like the imagery of it all, that it's definitely has kind of like a Southern, like aggressive Bible Belt sort of theme of, kind of being a little bit mesmerized by, like preaching and different like guitar tones and stuff like that. Funny thing about that is in September, and I'm sure they're eventually going to reach out and tell me to stop telling the story, but in September, I was going to be filming the music video for that. And there's a place in Pembroke that's like a historic museum that has like this cute little historic church on site. And what I was going to do is do part of the music video there, and I was going to put on a concert afterwards. So to have like the extras that come in that would want to see the concert, they could stay, and I'd perform inside of that little church. Now, the people that I contacted, I don't think they really understood who I was. And they said, yeah, it sounds good. We have concerts there every now and then. We could do that. And then I said, would you like me to send you, like links to who I am? Which may not have been the best thing, because I sent them my links, and I guess instantly the people that rent out that church weekly. So every Sunday they'll have their sermon or whatever they have on Sunday. They pay this historic museum to rent out the church every Sunday. They got wind of it, and they called a board meeting because they saw some of my imagery and who I am. And they said, there's no way that we're letting this guy come into this church. He's clearly a Satanist. And they said, if you allow him on site, we will ban this church for good, and we'll refuse to ever come here. So if you don't place a ban on this Satanist, we're never going to come to this church. And unfortunately, the historic museum relies on funding from these people. So they kind of had said, yeah, sorry, they kind of think you're a Satanist, and they're going to put a ban on this church unless we ban you. So I've been banned from that little church because they seem to think I'm a Satanist. And they said, we don't want any of his Satanist energy inside of this church. So unfortunately, I won't be able to go back to that church. But anybody that's listening that has a cute little church, I'm no Satanist. So it's all for the sake of art, But it led me to kind of think of like, how horror movies might get filmed, because like there could be a same sort of premise of like somebody filming a really good horror film that needs a little church like this that would rent this out. And I always wonder, like, how do these horror movies get over the finish line to be able to rent out these things? Ultimately, probably it's money. So if I said, I'm giving you $15,000, I'm sure they say, bring on the Satanist. But yeah, so that's Preaching Ain't Easy. The second one's On Top of the World. That one I think is, so I'm currently filming a music video for that. I have most of it kind of put together. It's some of it's going to be like stop motion animation of
That's
a little
awesome.
Lego guy that looks like me. So I found a little Lego character with a big beard and you know, no hair, and has like similar makeup to like the imagery in my album cover. And a lot of it is stop motion. So it takes a little bit of time, but that's due to be out for November 1st as well. That's just, in my opinion, just like a real cool rock song. You know what I mean? Like, has a real cool kind of guitar part to it. Has a really cool solo that kind of catches you off guard. Has a very cool chorus to it. That one, I really hope that, you know, a lot of people that maybe not be fans of Satanists might enjoy as well. But yeah, those two songs I'm super proud of. I think they're super cool, and I think they turned out pretty cool too. And different songs, but like I said, they're both kind of from the same vein, you know.
And after that, the last two songs we have to talk about are Knitting Classes on Wolf Island and Take a Minute. Yeah,
so Knitting Class on Wolf Island is it's definitely kind of a darker song, more kind of a little bit more unhinged, I guess, but all kind of revolves around a guitar riff. Yeah, it's kind of if you listen to the song, the lyrics are kind of, you know, being taken advantage of, you know, the lines, why don't you sink your teeth in somebody else? And a lot of that, you know, there's definitely themes of me working for these massive companies, and I won't name the companies, but they're as big as they get on this planet, that have a notorious history of unethical practices. And I've just had to deal with so many toxic situations that never should happen. A lot of manipulation on how they try to sink their teeth into you, so you put that company before everything. The last company I worked for before I said I'm done with this shit was a huge Canadian company, and it was a distribution center, and it was the largest automated distribution center in North America, which robots picking boxes and stuff. And I was in a manager's role, and I worked really hard and sacrificed an awful lot to get that role. And if you don't apply for roles above you, you'd never get that chance again. So even though you may enjoy a role and you may not be ready for that higher role, you're forced into that because you constantly have to be trying to get higher roles. And then you only sit in the top role for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then you need to go to a different company. That's just how these things work. You never get like a top management in that company for like longer than 5 years, or else they get fired. That's just how these things work, which doesn't make any sense at all. So they forced me into applying for this higher role, even though the person that I was applying against had already been given that role. So the one person that was high up brought in this guy. It was already said, we're moving you across country. You're taking this role. It's a formality. You just have to apply. And I remember going through the interview stages, and I remember interviewing with all the high ups and being very stressed about this, only to be in the middle of the interview and stopped and said, like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't give a shit about any of this. I don't give a shit about that guy. I don't give a shit about putting Pampers on a truck. I don't give a shit about fucking this, having to like cut somebody to move ahead. I don't give a shit about any of this. And I remember saying like, I don't want this job. And they said, oh, you don't want this higher position? I said, no, I don't want my job. I don't want any of this shit. Like, why am I doing this, risking my health and being stressed out and having to do toxic things in the workforce? And all of it was bad, like anything that you hear, oh, they do shifty things about this and this and how they treat people. It's all true. I was a product of it, and I just didn't want to hurt people anymore that come in and want to put in a hard day's work and manipulate them and try to dangle a carrot. So yeah, the knitting class on Wolf Island definitely is like my kind of portrayal of how all that works, that, break you down that, I'm paraphrasing, but one of the lines is, not, like make a fist because it's easier to find a vein. So, they'll tell you like, oh, you have to be passionate about this and you have to live this, but they want you to be aggressive because then they have you hooked and it's easier to draw blood that way, so to speak. So, and the other one, Take a Minute, is just kind of, going through all of that stuff and being at the age that I'm at and reflecting back at whenever I was young and just wondering, was it ever worth it? And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all that. So it's irrelevant to say, was it worth it? But if I would go back and do things different, I would have done it all different. You work so hard to grow in these companies and then one day they've turned their back on you and you're left with nothing, So yeah, that's what that one's about as well.
I would want to actually talk about those Africa stories, but I know we're kind of on a bit of a time crunch.
Yeah, like I said, I could go on for days. I used to, for nobody that knows, I used to work a lot in Africa in oil and gas and worked a lot in Texas too. And I could go on for days about Africa stories. Like I said, I've lived so many different lives.
And I want to go a bit on to kind of, I wanted to ask, because we did talk a bit about kind of the writing, like the way you like write your songs. But I did want to ask like kind of more just specifically, like how you like, did you just kind of like, so what you said you do is you kind of like just take like, how is it, like a couple hours or something, just kind of be by yourself and just kind of almost like kind of go through your memories and see if there's something that you can kind of make with it or something?
So what happens is generally some sort of melody comes to me. I kind of put it down on guitar. So now that riff is kind of the basis. And what happens is I do a lot of my writing subconsciously when I sleep. So picture dreaming, and whatever you're dreaming is kind of irrelevant. You have a huge loudspeaker of that riff that I just wrote going over and over as blaring. And this is honestly like how it works. That riff is going over and over. And it's the whole time you're dreaming, little kind of fragments are being added on to that riff of like a little melody of, you hear kind of a tone of somebody's voice. Then eventually you hear the melody of kind of the lyrics without there being anything more than phonetics of like, oh, stuff like that. So you don't hear necessarily words, to the point that it slowly starts to construct itself, and day and night, that riff probably plays in my head slowly. Some days nothing gets added, but slowly little things kind of get added that it becomes more of something that is tangible, that I could say like, oh, I know where this is going. And it's thousands and thousands of times that riff goes. It's just almost like you have like an internal, because I have a thing, it's called exploding head syndrome. And I know it sounds a lot more crazy than it is, but like I'll hear like internally in my head, loud bangs and like doors slamming and stuff like that, but it's not actually happening. It's just a weird condition and it doesn't affect me. I don't care, but I don't know if that's helped me, that whenever I write stuff, that song is constantly blaring in my head, even though it's not necessarily in my ears. I just hear it inside of my head type of thing, if you hear like, you say like not a voice, but like you hear kind of internal dialogue of like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like that's just in my head nonstop of that song and that riff thousands of times. So when I'm done with writing a song and that's recorded, it's like, I've listened to that so many times. You know what I mean? Like now it's for whoever wants to listen, that's fine. I don't really want to listen to it because that riff has been going on for days, sometimes weeks type of thing. And I don't move on to another riff until that one's done. So it's not like I have a bunch of those going on, because for me, I just wouldn't be able to really manage around it. So that song is the song I write. And it's not, I may have like other kind of ideas maybe, but those I could completely repress, and I only focus on that one riff going on and on. And like I said, I dream, and that is nonstop. That riff is in my head until it slowly starts to kind of make its way. And then I look at like, the phonetics of the melody of the lyrics. Cause like generally, and you'll see a lot of my stuff, there's a lot of like kind of backing, like, ooh, nah, stuff like that. That's all kind of already there whenever I'm playing that in my head, and it's figuring out the melody of that, the lyrics. And then it becomes more mathematical of me trying to place, how does this, these words kind of line into this, by trying to tell a certain type of story. And then I get creative of like, I may not tell, I went and saw a dog and then went into the corner store, but like, it's a little bit more vague of like a theme of the song type of thing. And then I kind of get creative of how the wording kind of goes into that. So it's all I know. I don't know if that's the right way or wrong way to write a song. I know I've never really heard of anybody that's similar to that. Maybe there are people similar to that, but I don't go and say like, I would really like to have like an A minor, C, F sort of transition. It's like, I kind of figure out what that is in my head type of thing.
So I think that's almost like a form of like overactive imagination, maybe
something like whatever that. Way you want to word it. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of like, to be a musician, you have to be creative, and it doesn't matter what way that is. Maybe you just like fully understand your instrument you're playing, and you're just kind of like, oh, maybe what if I made something like this or that type of thing. Or if it's just something that kind of just comes to you, like how it is with you, like it just kind of comes. I
just look at myself as a vessel. You know what I mean? So I'll come up with like a riff or a melody or a song, and I'll look at it and say like, wow, that's actually not bad. I wish I had a part in writing it, because it's like, it's already there for me. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm like, some of it, like my ideas that come to me, it's like I've never even created them. It's like they're just there in front of me. You know what I mean? So I'm just a surprise. I'm like, well, that is actually kind of cool, but it's a weird thing. My brain, has been through a lot of joy and a lot of trauma. I think that probably when I was younger, I had a few learning disabilities that might have hindered me, but instead of trying to figure out the way to treat them, I just try to use them as more of something that helps me. So I'll try to figure out how do I get results from something a little bit of a different route. You know what I mean? So my brain, like I hear things, I see things that I don't think is what most people hear or see. I see different kind of, colors and different ways of interpreting things. But I've never really stood back to ask why. I just have become a passenger just to let it become, Same with if it's, playing at different shows and like creating different things and different imagery. I just don't want to do something that somebody else does. I just want to do what's in my head. How do I convey that it's a tangible thing that people could relate to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. It's just more of like you're able to kind of pick things off maybe easier than others type of thing.
More different than others. Yeah. I don't know if easy is because I struggle with a lot of things, but like it's just a different way that I've just allowed myself to kind of be in tune to, instead of fighting that and saying that's not the right way. I've just said, okay, how do I make this work?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is all the questions I have for this interview. Wade, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, man.
And for all you listening and or watching right now to the podcast, make sure to go follow Parliament of Owls on all his socials, and go check him out on Spotify and other streaming platforms that you may have that he is on. And if you don't want to check which ones he's on, go check the socials. And make sure to stay up to date for shows, because he does have a lot of them happening. And also for that whole show he has going on where it's at different places. Because honestly, I would like to go to one of those too, because that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I hope, because we have a couple, it's called Indie Business is the name of the show. And we do have a couple lined up in the Ottawa area in the new year. And yeah, Parliament of Owls Music is kind of my go-to. That's my Instagram. Reach out, man. Like, don't discount that. Like, I want to kind of build relationships. So I even see people come to my show and they say, oh yeah, I'll follow you or whatever. Like, reach out, communicate, like start building this thing together. And more importantly, if you're going to go and follow me on Instagram, do yourself a favor and follow my dog on Instagram. Okay. So it's at Charlie_Gray_Poe. He has like 11,000 followers or something.
That's awesome.
He's quite famous. People all over the world love him. And more importantly, he's a good boy. He's a little French bulldog. You're going to love him.
Absolutely. Make sure to follow that. I'll probably end up following that, checking that out.
Do yourself a favor.
All right. Well, is there anything else, Wade, you want to kind of let people know before we head out of here?
Yeah, I do. Even though it's tough sometimes, try to find love in your heart. It's very easy to find hate nowadays, but it all starts with you, So find love for yourself and try to do everything you can to find an excuse to love during the day. If everybody starts trying to do that, you can't help but think the world will be marginally better than everybody trying to find hate. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Wade. Thank you for coming on to the podcast again. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It was great talking with you.